At first glance, the combat doesn't feel as fluid as I would like it, and that's probably due to the animation lock whenever you cast a spell. It has almost this static feel to it, but the more you watch, the more that actually begins to change. There's actually combos in the game, and you have the ability to chain different types of attacks together, whether that be fire or ice, etc, etc. Also, we don't know how important it's gonna be, but from what I gathered, the environment will play some type of role in the combat. Not as the main mechanic like Control or Scarlet Nexus, but more as a combo extension or combo starter. And the more you watch the gameplay, the more everything seems a lot more thought out and faster. The more you watch, the faster it all feels. As for the enemies, we have confirmation that they won't all just go brute force at you. Some might enchant, maybe buff their allies, or incapacitate you. It's that variety of enemy types and what they do and what you can do that makes this a little bit more interesting. Now, throwing the weaknesses each enemy may have, along with your ability to dodge, deflect, crowd control, and do fatalities.
Yeah, I had scars too.
Now, also remember, it's an RPG, so your talents and leveling up will be included. Wanna maybe sneak up on the enemy to get the first hit? That's fine. Want to summon a few baby Yodas to assist you in combat? Go ahead. I wanna use a potion to heal or give you that edge? Go for it. When you consider all that, you start to see there's a lot more depth in the gameplay loop, and it looks promising. Maybe not great, but promising. And even if it isn't great, Harry Potter was never about the dark arts or combat for me. It was about something different. Something more.
Ever had a griffin come through with vengeance?
Let's talk story. The story might seem standard with your typical potentially save the school or maybe the world scenario, but at least antagonists involved in the plot could have convincing arguments and motivations. Adding goblins that have been marginalized in the wizardry world for centuries adds a layer of complexity to the story. And that's not to say you will agree with them, because a lot of the time, it's not really the goal we disagree with. It's how we get to that goal that is the question. Does the end justify the means?
Does the means justify the end?
Now, throwing dark wizards with their own motivations as an ally to the main antagonist, and the story once again becomes a little bit more complex. Again.
Does the end justify the means justify the end?
It's essentially two factions with aligned interests. For them, it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Until I come through and make it all irrelevant.
Pull up on them with vengeance. Pull up on them with vengeance.
Everyone's our friends till I come through.
Vengeance.
Now the next question might be, how grandiose will this story be? Well, we just don't know. We know this game is set in the 18th century, and we know Hogwarts is still around in the present, so it can't be too drastic, right? Well, not exactly. Just because we know the future doesn't mean the decisions we make in this game won't influence other parts of the wizardry world. It doesn't mean the decisions we make in this game won't influence Hogwarts and the characters Harry interacts with in the future. It doesn't mean we don't set the foundations for what happens in the books. It will be its own story, but separate. Think the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Connected, but separate. This is still your story, and it might be bigger than the boy who survived. But the wizardry world just doesn't know, and that's fine. Not all stories need to be told. Not every hero needs to be known. But let's take a step back, because truth be told, when I think about Hogwarts, I think of the worlds and the locals. Let's talk the world and characters.
It's the first Harry Potter game that looks alive.
One of the reasons why I loved Persona 5 was because it gave me this ability to live in a world as a student and also interact with it on a personal level. And while this game isn't sim-like, I do love the idea of going to classes like Defense Against the Dark Arts, Charms, Herbology, and Potions. I do like the idea that I might be able to carry out side missions for my classmates and professors, which all seem to have distinct personalities. And while it may not have a confidence system necessarily like Persona or class tests, that's fine, because all that seems to be replaced with discovery and adventure. Finishing up with classes, you'll be able to explore Hogwarts, meet interesting characters around the school, develop relationships, and carry out tasks for them. Locate dungeons which also could yield new abilities to you. Those new abilities can then be used to interact with the world, because what's a Harry Potter game if magic isn't being used to solve issues and, of course, traverse? And while we don't know how big the map is, the fact that this can be done, hop on a broom and just go anywhere, means it must be somewhat sizable. So head on over to Hogsmeade and other locations dotted on the map. And while doing that, you'll have the opportunity to save animals and care for them. Maybe even bring some into battle. While also progressing in the game, you also have the ability to develop relationships with more companions. And what I liked about this is they all seem different and unique with interesting backstories. Maybe you can grow to care about them in the same way you cared about Ron and Hermione. That bond likely gets better when they accompany you on missions. So now revenge is not just me. We're pulling up on the Griffin. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I'm a Harry Potter fan and I was making a Harry Potter game, it would look and feel something like this. When I was a kid, my imagination ran wild, and it looked exactly like this.
Before sci-fi and Mass Effect, there was fantasy and the boy who lived. And as much as I was fascinated with his story and development, it was everything around him that caught my attention. Because whenever I thought about the franchise, I never actually thought about him, the boy with the scar. I was thinking about something different. I was thinking about something more. I was thinking about me.